Hey y'all, today it is all about pumpkin. This is a compilation video, which just means that this is all of my pumpkin related videos all rolled into one. Any contests or giveaways are closed. First up, we're making a pumpkin roll. To start out with, we're going to add our dry ingredients to a bowl, and as you can see, I have a little help in the kitchen today. So the first thing that we're going to add is 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. Then we're going to add in 1 cup of regular sugar. And then to that, we're going to add in 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I already know I should have taken these spoons apart for her little hands, but y'all, I wasn't even thinking, so we just powered through and did what we had to. So then we added in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And now we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, just regular old cinnamon. And don't mind the spider legs peeking into the side of the frame over there. My grandson is sitting up there waiting on his turn. And then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. So that is our dry ingredients. And y'all make sure you like this video so little Miss Emerson knows that she did a good job. So dump your, look, we had some pumpkin pie spice that got away from us. So that is all we need for our dry ingredients. Now we're going to go ahead and get those whisked up real good and fling some flour on the counter because she is my granddaughter, y'all. And you know if we ain't messing up the kitchen, we ain't cooking. So go ahead and just get that mixed up real well, and then we're going to set it over to the side. And don't worry about the toes up there on the counter. That's my kitchen, and we put toes on the counter if we want to. So for our wet ingredients, you're going to need 3 eggs, and these are room temperature. I sat them out for a couple of hours to bring them to room temp because when you bake, it's easier to bake with an egg that's at room temp than a really cold egg. It just mixes in better. So go ahead and crack your 3 eggs, and of course I've got him cracking them in a bowl because we don't want to end up with a bunch of eggshell in our cake. So go ahead and get them cracked up real good. And also, y'all, don't worry. I know y'all see the eggs shooting everywhere. In between, he was washing his hands and we were cleaning the counter. So calm down. Okay, so once you get your eggs all cracked up, we're going to just push them to the side for just a second, and we're going to go ahead and get all of our wet ingredients put together. So, of course, it's a pumpkin roll, so we need the star of the show. We need some pumpkin puree. Now, don't get like the pumpkin pie filling. Make sure that you get pumpkin puree because they are different, so just make sure you get the right one. So you're going to need 2/3 of a cup of that, and then you're going to need to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then you're going to add in, excuse me, y'all, we're going to add in those 3 eggs that we cracked. So we're going to get that all poured in there together. Now make sure, go ahead and preheat your oven to 350, okay? And you're going to need a pan that's about a 15 by 10 by 15, whichever way you want to say it. But that's about the size you're going to need to make this because we want to make sure that it's flat enough that we can roll it, okay? We don't want anything that's super thick. So go ahead and get your wet ingredients all mixed up real good and just make sure that that egg gets real good and incorporated. And then we're going to add in all those dry ingredients that we mixed up. So just get those all dumped into your bowl. Just if you need to dump the wet into the dry, if the bowl size is a difference for you, do it whichever way. We're just going to mix it all together, y'all. So I had to take the whisk out because that wasn't cutting it. So you're just going to mix this up. You don't want to over mix it, but just mix it until all that flour is incorporated, okay? And look, if y'all are not subscribed to my channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can come back and hang out and have fun with us in the kitchen. So once we get all of our cake put together, we're going to go ahead and line a cookie sheet. That's what mine is. If you have a jelly roll pan, that would be perfect, but I don't. At least I don't have one the size that I needed. But this pan is actually a 10 by 15 or 15 by 10. So I'm going to just line it with some parchment paper. So just spray a little bit of cooking spray down on your pan, and then your parchment paper will stick down to that cooking spray so that your paper doesn't just keep pulling up away from your pan. Now, I didn't get enough in the corners and it didn't stick down, but that's okay. It'll be just fine. Just put enough down there where it'll hold your parchment paper in place, okay? And then for a little added insurance, I put a little bit not a whole lot, just a little bit of cooking spray on the top of my parchment paper because we want to make sure that this comes out clean when we go to roll it. So once you get your pan prepped and ready, go ahead and dump your pumpkin mix right over onto your pan. Now I'm using just a little silicone like spoon kind of thing, and that's what I'm spreading it out with. If you have like an offset spatula, which I do, but sometimes I don't think to grab things, especially when I have the kids in the kitchen with me. I don't think about it, and so I just kind of tend to go with whatever's in my hand. So that just shows you, if you have the other things, they work great, but you can also use whatever you have. So go ahead and just smooth that out into as even of a layer as you can. Okay, you want it to be real even so that it cooks evenly. And then I just bump it on the counter a couple of times to make sure that it's all nice and set. Then you're going to bake that for about 15 minutes. And like I said, if maybe I didn't say 350 for 15 minutes. Then we're going to immediately, this is straight out of the oven, immediately we're going to take it off the pan and we're going to roll this. If you roll this hot, you have less of a chance of this cracking. If you wait until it cools down, it's going to crack on you, okay? So what we're going to do, I took my little off-brand of gloves there, and they're big and bulky, but I wanted to try to do this without burning my fingerprints off, and as you can see right there, it didn't stick, so that's what I was showing you. So what you're going to do is immediately start rolling this, and you don't want to roll it super, super tight, you know, to where it breaks off, but you do want to do it kind of tight, if that makes any sense. You want it to hold together. You want it to be the shape of whatever your roll is going to end up being, if that makes sense. So I did end up taking one glove off because I could not get a hold of my paper, but then I figured out once I made it, rolled it a couple of times, I could grab the ends of my parchment paper and just complete the roll. But this cake is very, very hot, so if you have some of these, use them, or you can use a dish towel or whatever you have. But I will have those in my Amazon store if anybody needs some, because they're great for the air fryer too. So once you get your cake rolled up, you're going to sit it on a wire rack and let it cool completely. You want it to cool completely down. Now, you'll see in a minute I didn't let mine cool all the way, but you can also pop this over in the freezer for a little while, and that way it cools on down. Because you want to make sure that center part gets real good and cool. Okay, while our cake is cooling, we're going to go ahead and make our cream cheese filling. So what you're going to need for that is 8 ounces of softened cream cheese and 2 tablespoons of softened butter. Now, I was a good girl on this day, y'all, and I remembered to sit everything out. My eggs, my cream cheese, and my butter. Aren't y'all proud of me? Because y'all know I forget to do that half the time, and then I have to just make things work. So to that, you're going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla. Now, I could have gotten my hand mixer out to mix this up, but I just didn't want extra dishes. I was cooking a lot on this day, and I was trying to make life as simple as possible. So this will just show you too that if you don't have a mixer or you don't want to use it, you can do it by hand. You just got to make sure that it gets really good and mixed up. All right, so now we're going to add to this some powdered sugar. I forgot what it was just that quick. So you're going to add 1 cup of powdered sugar, and I'm using my little whisk. That's not a whisk, y'all. This little sifter, and it's just got kind of a trigger on the handle, because when I used this earlier in a recipe, my cream cheese had little chunks in it. So I wanted to use the sifter to make sure that we ended up with a really smooth cream cheese filling. Okay, so then I just went ahead and went to town mixing that up. Okay, now that my cake is cool, or what I thought was cool, we're going to go ahead and unroll it and put our icing in. Now you're going to see right here, see that crack in the cake? Well, I was like, shoot, now I've ruined it. Okay, don't think like that. We're going to fix it. We're going to make sure it works. So go ahead and take your cream cheese. But y'all, the reason that it cracked a little bit on me, I think, is because I did not let it cool completely. I thought it was cool enough, but like I said, I was cooking a lot, so I didn't realize it was still kind of warm in the middle. But like, that's what I said. That's why I said maybe sit it in the freezer for a little while. You just want to make sure it's completely cool. So once you get your cake rolled out, go ahead, put your cream cheese on there, and we're going to spread it out. Now, I didn't go completely to the edges because I didn't want it to squirt out the edges when I rolled it. So just get it in as even a layer as you can, and then we're going to roll it back up. Okay, so what I did was I just went from the end that was kind of cracked, because I was going to try to make sure that this would tuck back in on itself. And you can see as I roll, see the crack right there? Now, I ended up making it work because it rolled. I had enough cake at the end to where it covered the crack, if that makes sense. I know y'all saw it, but I was like, okay, maybe I can salvage this. Maybe I can salvage it. But I didn't want to redo one and give y'all a perfect video of a perfect everything coming out, perfectly. How many times can I say perfect? Because sometimes things happen in the kitchen and you have to just roll with it and you have to make it work. So after that, I wrapped it tight in some plastic wrap. I had to put some extra, my plastic wrap wasn't long enough, but I had to put some on the end. So I made sure I just sealed it up good. And then I put this in the refrigerator for a couple of hours just to let it kind of, finish cooling down and let that cream cheese set back up. And y'all, this is our pumpkin roll. I'm going to tell you, this thing is fantastic. We ate the entire roll. Between the grandkids and the kids, and we ate the whole thing. It was so dang good. So y'all have to make this. Even if you're not team pumpkin, you got to make this pumpkin roll, because I'm going to tell you, you're going to love it. Next up, we're making pumpkin oatmeal cookies. To get started, we're going to need to, take your Shrek and Donkey plate. Just pretend y'all didn't see that. We're going to put a paper towel or a couple of paper towels down on a plate, and we're going to put our pumpkin puree on there, because pumpkin puree contains a lot of water, and we don't need all that extra liquid in these cookies. So what you're going to do is take 1 cup of the pumpkin puree, and that's about half of that can. And then we're going to spread it out on this paper towel, or on these paper towels, and we're going to let that just kind of hang out while we get everything else ready, so we can get some of that liquid to come out of that pumpkin puree. Okay. So just dump it on your paper towel, and then I just took a little rubber spatula, take a spoon, take a knife, whatever you've got, it don't matter. But do it with your hand if you want to. But just kind of, spread it out just a little bit. It doesn't have to be like thin or anything, but just kind of spread it out so you can get the most water that you can out of the puree, okay? So as you can see, around the edges, you can already see where that liquid is starting to come out. So that just tells you right there, this has a ton of liquid in it, and we don't need all that extra. So just stick that over to the side. We're going to let that hang out till we're ready for it. Okay, now we're going to get our spices together. Now what you're going to need is 2.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. And then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon each of cloves and nutmeg. And y'all, if you don't have all of these seasonings, but you can get your hands on some pumpkin spice, that's pretty much what this is, like the pumpkin pie spice. So use that if that's what you have. So then we're going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. And I put a whole teaspoon, so I had to go and dig 1/2 teaspoon out. So, don't do that. Pay attention to your measurements. So just mix that up. And normally I would just dump the spices right into the to my dry mixture, but we need to reserve some of this in a minute. So that's why I'm doing it in a separate little bowl, okay? So just put that over to the side. We're going to get back to that in a second. All right, so let's go ahead and get our dry ingredients together. Now, you need some oats, and I'm using the old-fashioned oats. That's the big oats. If all you have is instant or the quick oats, it will probably work, but it's just the bigger oats just give the cookie a better texture, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So we need 2.5 cups of the oats. So now we're going to add in 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. And then we're going to add in 1 cup of some chopped pecans. So just, dump it over in there. You already know this is going to be good. Oatmeal, pecans, come on, y'all. So then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now we're going to go ahead and add in that spice mix that we mixed up, but we need to reserve 1 teaspoon of it for something else in a minute. So go ahead and just dump that in there, and then I dump the 1 teaspoon back into the little cup and set it over to the side, because that's going to go in our icing, y'all. So then just mix your dry ingredients up real good, just get them all good and mixed up. Now we're going to go ahead and take 2 sticks of softened butter, and we're going to put those right into our mixing bowl. Now you don't have to have a stand mixer. You can definitely do this with a hand mixer. Just make sure that you have a big bowl, okay? So then we're going to add in there 1 cup of sugar and 3/4 of a cup of packed light or dark brown sugar. Either one is fine. Now ideally you would go ahead and cream your butter and your sugars together, but I don't know where my brain was the day I was making these, and I didn't do that. I just started putting all the ingredients in there like I had good sense, but it turned out fine. But in a perfect world, cream your butter and your sugar and then add everything else. Okay, so what I added in there was 1 egg yolk, just the yellow part, and then I added about 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now we're going to add in a couple of tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of molasses. And I made some like copycat oatmeal cream pies, and it called for molasses also. And y'all, there is something about that molasses in these cookies with this oatmeal. Oh my gosh, it makes such a huge difference. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just thought I'd share that with y'all. Okay, so you can see a lot of liquid came out of that pumpkin puree. So once you get to this point, dump your pumpkin puree in there, and then we're going to let this mix until everything is creamed together. But like I said, we should have creamed the butter and sugars first and then added everything else, but alas, I did not. So once that gets mixed in as good as you can, I cannot talk. Then we're going to start adding our dry ingredients. And we're going to let this mix just until everything is combined. You don't want to over mix it. Okay, once everything is mixed up, you're going to go ahead, make sure y'all that you preheat your oven to 350. Then we're going to just scoop these out, and I'm using my little cookie scooper, and the reason I do is not because I'm fancy. It's because it makes all my cookies the same size. So then they all cook evenly. You know what I'm saying? So if you have something you can measure out your little balls with, even if it's just like a tablespoon, like measuring spoon, then that's the best bet, because then all your cookies come out even. But anyway, you roll them all into a ball and you get greasy, sticky hands, and then just press your cookies down just a little bit to give them a little help. They're not going to spread a whole lot. So we're just going to help them along in the process just a touch, okay? Then we are going to put these in the oven, 350, for about 12 minutes or so, okay? 12, 13 minutes, somewhere along in there. And then once your cookies, y'all, once your cookies come out, look, they're nice and brown on the bottom, we're going to put them on a wire rack, and we're going to let them just cool completely. Now we're going to get our icing ready. So what you're going to need for this is 4 tablespoons of softened butter, and then 2 ounces of softened cream cheese. Okay, 2 ounces. But don't worry, I didn't waste this or put, softened cream cheese back in my refrigerator or anything. I had other things I was cooking, so I did use that cream cheese, so don't worry about that. But what I was trying to point at just then is they have little measurements on the outside of the package that shows you, kind of like on a butter package. I never noticed that because I usually just use a whole block of cream cheese, but it does have little measurements, so you'll know exactly where to cut if you just need a little bit. All right, and then you're going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla, and then we're going to mix this. Now, I thought because this was such a small amount, I really didn't need to get a mixer out or anything. And so it took me a little work, and mine ended up a little bit lumpy. But it still tasted fine. But, I would maybe say get your mixer out for that and then sift your powdered sugar, because I didn't realize how clumpy my powdered sugar was. But anyway, 4 tablespoons of butter, a teaspoon of vanilla, 2 ounces of cream cheese. Then you're going to do 1.25 cups of your powdered sugar. Okay, and I'm adding in a little bit of milk, of course, because you got to have something to make it a little bit softer, right? So anywhere from 2 to 4 tablespoons. Start out with 2 and see where that gets you. And then If you need to add a little bit more, do that. Just keep adding a little tiny bit, like a teaspoon or so at a time, until it gets to the consistency that you need it, because it doesn't take much liquid at all, okay? Once you get it good and mixed up, go ahead and dump that 1 teaspoon of that spice mixture that we had left over. Or, like I said, if you didn't have this mixture and you're using pumpkin pie spice, just put you a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice in there. Then we're going to mix that up real good. And you can see I have little bitty clumps of powdered sugar, but y'all, I wasn't real concerned about it. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, we just kind of go with what we got around here. So then you're just going to dip these down into the icing, and that's it. This makes like 48 cookies, y'all. So it seems like a lot of ingredients, because it is, but it makes a ton of cookies. And I'll tell you, the icing on the cookies, like, it was fantastic. It was really good. But my daughter, she really liked these cookies just plain, like with no icing at all. Now, she liked the icing, but she said just the plain cookie was just delicious. So either way you want to do it, if you don't want to fool with the icing, then you don't have to. It is really good though. So y'all, look how yummy these cookies look. You can see all those little spices right down in the little icing on top. And these cookies are super soft and chewy, so you're gonna love them. Next up, pumpkin cream cheese muffins. We have to do these in a couple of steps. The first thing that we're gonna do is take 1 block of cream cheese and make sure that you let that sit out and let it get soft so that we can mix it, okay? So 1 block of cream cheese, and then you need 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now, normally I sift my powdered sugar when I think about it, but I didn't today because we're going to be mixing this with a hand mixer, so I didn't see the need. But, you know, if you're going to attempt to mix this by hand, I would say sift your powdered sugar. Otherwise, use your hand mixer and sling it all over your kitchen like I do. So you're just going to want to mix that until it's nice and smooth. Now, I said we need to do this in a couple of steps. They're not difficult. It's really easy to throw together. We just have a couple of different moving parts to this recipe. So we're going to need to do this a couple of hours before we make our muffins. So what you're going to do is, you've got your cream cheese and your powdered sugar. I take a piece of parchment paper, spray it with some cooking spray, and then we're just going to plop that down. Try to plop it down into like kind of a ball, because you don't want this like spread out. And what we're going to do, don't worry about my finger in my cream cheese, because my hands have been all in everything I'm cooking today, and we're all going to be just fine. So we're just going to go ahead, and you need to get this rolled into sort of a log shape, but we're going to make 24 muffins. So you need this to be, like, the diameter of it needs to be small enough to fit down into a muffin cup, okay? Into your little, your little muffin wrapper. So I just kind of fooled with it and messed around with it. I should have put a tiny bit more cooking spray, but I was afraid it would be too slippery, you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter, it works out fine. You're just going to roll it out into kind of a long log, about a foot long. Well, I think those squares may be 16 inches, so maybe it's 16 inches, I don't know. But just needs to be kind of long and skinny, okay? So put that in the freezer, let it sit for a couple of hours. So for your muffins, you're going to need 3 cups of all-purpose flour. You're going to need a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 350, by the way. Then we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. You can add a little more if you like a little bit more pumpkin pie flavor in yours. However you want to do it, it'll be just fine. Mix it up good, set it over to the side. Now we're going to get our wet ingredients together. So you're going to need to crack 4 eggs. And do y'all remember in the last video where I baked something and I told y'all to make sure that you let your eggs sit out and come to room temperature because they're easier to mix and they mix in better? Yeah, well, guess who did not let her eggs sit out? Me! So anyway, cold eggs. So what I did was put the eggs in first, and that way I could kind of scramble them up a little bit, or, mix them up real good, so they would mix into the other ingredients better. So Anyway, there you go. Do as I say, not as I do, because Lord, I tell you to do something and I forget what I said. So then you're going to add in a cup of oil. I used canola oil because that's what I had, but use whatever you have. It'll work just fine. Then you're going to add in 1 can of pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie filling, pumpkin puree. Okay. Then we're going to add in 2 cups of sugar, not low fat, not low sugar, but they're real good, y'all. So go ahead and just whisk that up until everything is nice and smooth. You want everything to be really good and incorporated and all smooth. You know, make sure all that everything is all mixed in. So once you get that done, you're going to take those dry ingredients that you mixed up and just dump those right over into your wet ingredients. Try not to make a mess, but don't do nothing with that bowl because we're going to need it again. So then you're just going to mix this up, and you don't want to over mix it because you don't want your muffins to come out like real tough or anything. You don't want them to be real dense. So just mix it until all your flour is just incorporated. And you'll see, well, I guess you can see, there's still like some little lumps in mine. That's perfectly fine. It's going to be all right. Just like I said, don't overmix it. So now I use these silicone muffin cups. Now you don't have to spray these. I've never had anything stick to them, but I'm always afraid that I'm gonna have something stick. So I always put a little bit of cooking spray just for a little added extra insurance. So anyway, spray them, don't spray them, do whatever you do with your silicone. Or you can use paper muffin cups if that's what you have. But if you need some of these, they are in my Amazon store because they're pretty fantastic. Or you can get them at Walmart too, y'all. Wherever you can get them at. But get you some because they're real nice to have. So what you're going to want to do is take about a tablespoon or so of your muffin mix and put it down in the bottom of all of your little muffin cups. We need to put a base down for our cream cheese to sit on, okay? Because the cream cheese goes in the middle, right? So a little bit on the bottom, about 1/3 of the way full. Then you're going to take your cream cheese log out of the freezer, and I should have left mine in a tiny bit longer, but I didn't, but that's okay. It still worked out just fine. Just if it's a little bit closer to frozen, it's just going to be a little easier to work with. You know what I'm saying? But mine is perfectly fine, so it's fine. Do it however you need to do it. If you need to take it out a little sooner, do what you need to do. Now, you're going to need to cut, this makes 24. So you're going to need to cut this into 24 pieces. I went ahead, I had to bake mine in batches because I only have 2 muffin pans. So I just went ahead and cut 12 pieces out for my first 12 muffins, okay? So what you're going to do is take your little ball of cream cheese and sit it right down on your muffin mix. Now, don't shove it down in there because we don't want all the cream cheese to be coming out the bottom. We want it to be in the center. But so just kind of sit it on there and press it real lightly down into your muffin mix so that it doesn't slip around when you add the top part of the muffin mix. And so since I had to wait, I went ahead and rolled that cream cheese back up and stuck it back over in the freezer. So then you're going to take another scoop of your muffin mix and put it, and do it gently because you don't, like I said, you don't want your cream cheese to be sliding to one side. We want it to be in the middle. You know, that little surprise in the middle. So just put you some muffin mix right on top of your cream cheese and kind of just, you know, pat the edges so that it kind of goes around the cream cheese. Y'all, am I making any darn sense? Hopefully I am. I mean, you can see what I'm doing. You just want it to envelop, encase, you know, consume, whatever word. It's late, y'all, and I'm tired. But anyway, now we got to make the crumble for the top. Okay, so what you're going to need is a 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, and then 4 tablespoons of cold butter. Because like I said, we're making a crumble for the top because, you know, why not? And look at that, y'all. Some of the paper didn't come off. Somebody's getting extra fiber in their muffin. Now look, I didn't serve this to the general public. I served this to my kids, and we won't tell them. Shh, don't tell them, y'all. But anyway, I'm sure it probably fell off as I was cutting, but I really don't know if it did or not. So, you know, I don't know. Somebody might have got a little something. They might have got the baby in the king cake, y'all. So I started to be fancy, and I said, I'm going to get out this pastry blender, and I'm going to cut this butter in, right? Pfft, y'all, please. I am the least fancy person that you'll ever meet, and this did not work. So I just went ahead and got in there with my hands. I don't know if I didn't have enough stuff or my bowl was too small, but it just was not working for me. So you're going to want to mix this up until it's kind of the consistency of wet sand. Okay, that's how mine turned out. It was like if you go and grab a handful of wet sand, that's what the top felt like to me. So if that's what yours feels like, then it's exactly like I did it. So you're going to go ahead and just crumble up a little bit of that on top of each one of your little muffins, because we don't have enough sugar on the inside. We're going to put a little something, something on the top, but it does give it a nice little crunch, So once we get that done, we're going to pop those in that 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes, 22 minutes, until they're not jiggly, okay? That's how long it'll need. And then this is what they're going to look like when they come out. And y'all, my little pot holder there, that's not dirty. It is stained. I've had it for 187 years. And, I just feel like I need to put that out there. But anyway, that's all there is to these muffins, y'all. I know it's several steps, but let me tell you, it is worth it. My daughter had texted me at midnight and she was like, Mama, please make these. So, being the wonderful mother that I am, I made them, and she loved them, so, win-win for me. Next, we have mini pumpkin cheesecakes. So to start out with, you're going to need a graham cracker crust. So I had some graham crackers in the cabinet. Now, they weren't open like that in the box, y'all. I opened them before I showed them to y'all, so, don't judge me. So what I did was I just took these out of the package, and I put them in a Ziploc bag, and I'm just going to crush them up with my handy-dandy, food processor there. But you can do it however you want to. You can actually buy these already crushed if you want to. But one sleeve of these graham crackers ended up being the perfect amount for me, because we needed a cup and a half, and I had just under a cup and a half, just a little under, but it worked out perfect. So one sleeve of graham crackers will get you what you need. But I did get my measuring cups out because I wasn't real sure if I was going to need to crush some more up. But you know what? Good enough. It is good enough, y'all. It doesn't have to be perfect. So now I'm just going to dump my little graham crackers right over into a bowl and go ahead and get your oven preheating to 350. Now to that, we're going to add about 2.5 tablespoons of sugar, because we want our crust to taste good, right? We want it to taste like a little cookie crust. So 2.5 tablespoons of sugar. And then you're going to need 1/2 cup of melted butter. Okay, so my butter's over there melting. I just kind of mixed my sugar and my graham crackers together. That way, my dry stuff would be good and mixed by the time I added my butter to it. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and add your butter. And then we're just going to mix this up until all of our graham crackers are coated in butter. We don't want any dry graham crackers left, because we're going to have to mold these into a crust, so it needs to be wet for us to do that. So just mix it up real good, just kind of press it down and mush it around. I mean, if you break them, it doesn't make any difference. They're all crushed up anyway, right? So then I got my little silicone molds, and I don't use these a whole lot, so I decided I would spray some cooking spray in there just to be on the safe side, because y'all, if I would have cooked these after all this and pulled them out and they would have been stuck to those muffin cups, I'd have been so upset. But anyway, when you get your little muffin, your muffin tins, your little muffin cups, your little paper muffin cups, whatever you have. Once you get them ready, you're going to go ahead and put a little bit of that graham cracker crust into each one. And I don't know exactly how much. I just kind of put the same amount in each one and then went back and added, to make sure that everything was pretty even, because I wanted it to all cook evenly. I didn't want anything to burn, So just go ahead and get that all put in your little muffin cups. Then we're going to need to press that down. So I started out by, I forget stuff that I have. I buy these neat little gadgets and then I forget I have them. So I started pressing them down with my fingers, and then it occurred to me, I have one of those little tart tampers. That's what that's called. And it's in my Amazon store if y'all need one. But one side is for a big muffin cup, and the other side, the little side, is for a mini muffin cup. Y'all, the things people come up with. But anyway, so I just used that, and I went ahead and just pressed all my little graham cracker crust right down in my little muffin things. That way it was nice and compact, so it would bake and be, hold together when we baked them. So you're going to pop those in the oven for about 10 minutes, okay? And then just, we're going to, let them cool after that. But while they're cooking, we're going to go ahead and get the next layer, because there's 3 layers to this. We've got a crust, and then we've got a cheesecake layer, and then we've got a pumpkin layer. So for our cheesecake layer, you're going to need 1 package of softened cream cheese. And yes, I said it out. I know y'all are proud. So I just got my little hand mixer, and I went ahead and I mixed it up because I didn't want it to be all lumpy. But, I could have mixed it with a spoon, but I just didn't have it in me, y'all. Just had to get the mixer out. So then you're going to add, look, minus the eggshell. Don't put the eggshell in there. Then you're going to add in 1 egg, and then you're going to add 1/4 cup of sugar and about half a teaspoon or so of vanilla. So we're going to get that all good and mixed up, and, control yourself. Don't stick your finger in there because we got raw egg in there. Don't taste it yet, y'all. I'm trying to save y'all from the salmonella. So just mix it up real good, and don't mind stuff flying in and out of the frame of the camera because I had my grandbabies this day and they were playing on the counter watching me. See, there's a green sword peeking into the frame right there. So anyway, once you get this all made up, go ahead and just sit it over in the refrigerator while you get everything else done. Okay? Now that our little graham cracker graham cracker crusts are out of the oven, you see what they look like? They look just like little crusts. They're kind of a solid piece of, whatever. We don't want it to be crumbly because when we take these out, we want them to hold together, right? Okay, so now for our final layer, what you're going to need is about 1/2 can of pumpkin puree, 7.5 ounces. I think it's 1/2 can. Was that the whole can? Anyway, 7.5 ounces, y'all. I'm pretty sure that's 1/2 can. But anyway, the measurements will be down in the description box. So go ahead and put that right over in your bowl. Then we're going to add some evaporated milk. You're going to need about 1/2 cup of that. We're going to pour that right on in with our pumpkin. And you don't need a mixer for this because it's going to mix up real easy. So then we're going to add 1 egg minus the shell. I didn't put the shell in there this time, y'all. All right, and next we're going to add about 1/8 cup of brown sugar, about 1/8 cup of regular sugar, and then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg, and then 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Okay, that's what we're going to add. That's all the little seasonings you need for that. Then we're going to get that all good and mixed up. Excuse me. Just make sure that everything is good and incorporated, especially that egg. Because you know how when you mix egg into stuff, sometimes you get like parts of it where it's got stringy pieces of egg in it. So just make sure that you mix it really good and that egg is really good and incorporated in there. Now, if you want to use a mixer for this, you certainly can, but you definitely do not have to. All right, now our crust is cool, our cream cheese is chilled, see there? So now it's time to put these together. So what we're gonna do, we've got our crust layer, so now we're gonna go ahead and put in our cream cheese layer. Now it's, thickened up just a little bit while it was in the refrigerator, not super thick, but I just got a teaspoon because again, I wasn't sure exactly how much I needed for each one of these. So I just started out with a teaspoon, kind of a heaping teaspoon, you can see. And I just added that right into each one of the muffin cups. And then once I got the same amount in all of them, I went back and just added a little here and a little there and all that good stuff, just to make sure everything was good and even. So y'all tell me, are you pumpkin fans? Are y'all team pumpkin or no? I asked this on the last pumpkin video I did. But, I've never been team pumpkin. I've never really cared for it. But I was like, I'm gonna make some because my daughter is a fan. She loves pumpkin, and my sister and my niece do too. But I just, it's just never been my thing. But I was like, this year I'm gonna make some. I'm gonna try it, and we're gonna see how it goes. And I was pleasantly surprised. Y'all. All right, so once we get our cream cheese layer down, you're going to go ahead and put a layer of your pumpkin mixture in there. And the same principle for this, just put in a little bit and then top them off if you need to. Now, when we bake these, they're going to rise up just a little bit, and I'll show you all this when they come out of the oven. But so don't worry about them being kind of full. They're not going to cook over. They'll rise up, but then they're going to kind of sink back down. Once we get all 3 of our layers, we're going to put this in the refrigerator. Please don't put it in the refrigerator. Put it in the oven for about 45 to 55 minutes until everything is set. Now that's what they look like when they come out of the oven. You can see they didn't really rise up very much, maybe just a little bit. So like I said, don't worry about overfilling and thinking it's going to, cook over. But you can see as they sat to cool how they kind of sank back down into the little muffin thing. So now I'm just being really, really careful, being very careful and praying, y'all, that this comes out in one piece. So I went ahead and I just took them out, and look at that. The perfect little cheesecake, perfect little mini cheesecake. It almost reminds me of candy corn. The colors, it looks like candy corn, y'all. Doesn't taste like candy corn. It tastes like cheesecake, and the pumpkin is not overpowering in this. So if you think you don't like pumpkin, try these anyway, because if you like cheesecake, I bet you're going to love these. Next up is pumpkin pie muffins. And I had a little help in the kitchen, so we forgot to turn the camera on. But now it's on, and let me tell you what we have in there. We have one can, a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 3/4 of a cup of evaporated milk. Okay, that's what we had in the bowl when we didn't have the camera on. So then I added 2 eggs, and then you're just gonna mix that up until everything is all incorporated, and make sure that you don't see like any of that egg running through there, you know what I'm saying? Just make sure it's all good and mixed. And then the next thing we're gonna do is get our dry ingredients together. What you're gonna need is 2/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour. And then you're going to need 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon each of salt, baking soda, and baking powder. So I wanted to just tell y'all something real fast. I know that if you've been here long enough, you know that a lot of times my grandbabies are here and they help me cook in the kitchen and stuff. I don't like putting them on camera. Occasionally, you'll catch a profile or something, that you'll see. But for the most part, I don't like to put them on camera. So in this particular video, little Miss Sissy there was helping me cook. And of course, she's a kid. She doesn't worry about where the camera is or if she's on camera or any of that. And I'm not going to constantly stop when I have my grandbabies over and say, hey, back up, you're in the camera. We're just in there, we're having fun. So she does get into the camera a lot, so you're gonna see where I cover her face. So I just kind of wanted to point that out and explain to y'all, what was going on and why I'm blocking out some of the video in this particular recipe. So anyway, let's move along. So once you get everything mixed up, and y'all know I'm gonna have all the ingredients down in the description box. Once you get everything mixed up, you're going to add your dry ingredients into your wet ingredients. And then we're going to mix this. Don't over mix it. We don't want these to be too dense, but just mix it up until all of your dry ingredients are incorporated into your wet ingredients, okay? And again, oven's at 350 for this one, just like the last one. And we're going to use, we're going to make 12 of these mini muffins. Now this is exactly what, if you like pumpkin pie, you're gonna love these. This taste, and my son-in-law is the pumpkin pie fiend. He loves some pumpkin pie, and he said it tastes exactly like the inside of a pumpkin pie, which is exactly what it is, because the only thing we don't have is crust. For these particular pumpkin pie muffins, we are not using any kind of a crust. We're just gonna bake them as is. So you know what? I'm saving y'all some calories. You're welcome. I figured y'all had enough at Thanksgiving. Y'all could lose we can stand to lose a few calories on one dessert, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm just taking that mixture that we made up and I'm going to put it just equally into all 12 of my muffin cups. And I'm using these silicone muffin cups, y'all. These are the best things. If you don't have these, you need to get some. Maybe they'll be in my next giveaway. Who knows? But they're really, really good. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them on Amazon. I have some in my Amazon store if you can't find them anywhere, but they're so good. But we're going to bake those for about 20-25 minutes, and they're going to puff up a little bit like this. But after about 45 minutes, once they start to cool, they're going to shrink down or sink down like this. So just know that they're not going to stay big and puffy like you saw them. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to get these out of these silicone muffin cups. Now, I didn't spray these, so this is just popping right out. Like there's nothing even left in the little muffin cup. These are perfect, y'all. You got to get some. You know, you don't have to have a plate. You don't have to have silverware. You can just grab it and go, and it's perfect for the little ones. And last but certainly not least, pumpkin coffee creamer. This was another one that my daughter thought would be really good, and spoiler alert, she does love this one. So to my pot, I'm going to add in another 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. And y'all know that I did show y'all how to make homemade sweetened condensed milk. So you can absolutely make your own and use it in these recipes, okay? So to this, we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, because it's pumpkin spice, right? That's exactly what it is. So we got to add the pumpkin spice in there, pumpkin pie spice. Then you're going to add in 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and mix this up. I saw somebody else do this ahead of time, and if you mix your spices into the condensed milk, it keeps it from just all of your seasonings floating on the top when you mix it. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do that too. So now you're going to add in some pumpkin puree, okay? Not pumpkin pie filling, pumpkin puree. I added in about 3 tablespoons of that. You can add a little more if you like a little more. You know, I wouldn't say add less because this is pumpkin. This is pumpkin flavored. So then you're going to add in about a teaspoon of vanilla. And then we're going to add in here 2 cups of milk, just regular old milk. This is 2%, I believe, because that's usually what I buy. I don't really buy whole milk unless like I was making those recipes the other day. But otherwise, I just use 2%. So then I'm just going to mix this up a little bit. Then we're going to go over to the stove with it, and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the other one. I'm just going to let this heat until it is smooth. Now, some of your spices are still going to float on the top of this. You can't help that. It's just going to happen. I don't think I said in the first one, when you store these in your refrigerator, obviously you will store them in the refrigerator. When you get ready to use them, you're going to need to shake them up because they are going to kind of settle as they sit in the refrigerator. So just make sure you take it out, give it a good shake, and then you're good to go, okay? We're doing the same thing with this one. I'm going to fill up this little 8-ounce bottle because I had to get these little bottles over to my daughter so she could be my taste tester, y'all, because I don't drink coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. I always wanted to. I like the smell of it, but I cannot stand the taste of it. So, but you could also use these in hot chocolate if you wanted to. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video, that you got some pumpkin-inspired ideas. All right, that's all I've got for y'all today, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.